truth persists.
Hello and welcome, I'm Ellie Richardson and you are watching The World Report on NewsX World. We start with some breaking news. According to reports, Germany, France and the UK have condemned Iranian attacks on regional countries, urging Iran to halt indiscriminated military strikes. In a joint statement, French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer reiterated their commitment to maintain regional stability and emphasised the need for negotiations to resume in order to promote peace in the region. We're now being joined by David K. Johnston, who's an author and a journalist, joining us from New York. Thank you so much, David, for joining us here today on NewsX World and for these breakings. So as we've just heard, Germany, France and the UK have come together. What do you think the significance in this is for these three countries to come together and give a message?
Well, interestingly, their criticism is not of Israel or the U.S., it's of what the Tehran regime is doing in its defense. The Iranians very clearly have decided that sending missiles into some neighboring countries that are hostile to them. Remember, the regime is a Shia regime. Most of the Middle East is Sunni. It is a response anyone should expect from the attacks by the U.S. and Israel that began some hours ago. The biggest concern is a wider war in the Middle East, and the secondary concern is if Trump is successful in regime change, who's going to take over? There is no clear authority. It's not like 1979 when the revolution overthrew the Shah and put the mullahs in power, the Ayatollahs in power. They had prepared for that and they had a structure ready to go. So you could end up with a state that just falls into complete chaos the way we saw in Iraq and the way we saw in Libya.
Thank you so much, David, for joining us, but please don't go anywhere as we'll join back with you shortly. We've got some more breaking news for you now. According to reports, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has stated that the US must act decisively in response to Iran's actions. He emphasized the importance of firm US leadership that warned against escalating the situation into a wider war. In a social media post, Zelensky wrote, whenever there is American resolve, global criminals weaken. We're now being rejoined again by David K. Johnston. David, my question to you is, what does this sentence mean from Zelensky?
Well, Zelensky needs to keep Donald Trump on the ranch. I mean, he's not in his court. Donald's plans to end the war are essentially the Kremlin's plans. And he doesn't want to do anything that will give Trump a reason to get angry and abandon the Ukrainian people. So his effort here is to express support for him. And notice his use of the word criminal. Zelensky has consistently described the Putin regime in Moscow as a criminal regime. So there's no question who he's talking about here.
Thank you, David. Again, please stay with us. We just got some more breaking news coming in. The United States has communicated to Iraqi authorities that it strongly desires to ensure Iraq is not drawn into the widening conflict with Iran. Iraq state news agency reported, citing an unnamed source. The message underscores Washington's concern that Iraq, which shares long land borders with Iran and hosts significant US diplomatic and military presence, could become entangled in escalating hostilities between the US, Israel and Tehran. Iraq has repeatedly emphasized its reluctance to be drawn into external conflict, striving to maintain a degree of neutrality aimed at rising regional tensions. The country has significant domestic and geopolitical constraints, balancing relations with both Washington and Tehran, particularly as Iran-aligned armed troops have become active within Iraq in recent years. We're now being rejoined again by David K. Johnston. Thank you for joining us back here. What do you think this means, that they are so in the middle, they just don't really know what to do?
Well, let's go back to the late 20th century. There was a particularly deadly 8-year war between Iran and Iraq when Iraq was still under Saddam Hussein. Enormous butcher's bill. The death toll was just incredible in that war. And so the Iraqis reasonably are very concerned. Are they vulnerable? Are they going to face some kind of assault by the Iranian military? Iran, a country of 90+ million people, has 1 million trained soldiers. Not all of them are active duty, but trained soldiers. So the Iraqis are reasonably concerned about how this is going to go for them. And of course, they are basically now a vassal state of the United States.
And David, with Iran constantly giving out threats to the Gulf in the Middle East, how do you think other neighbouring nations are feeling at this moment? Do you think there is a sense of panic going through them?
Well, just weeks ago, the governments in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and 1 or 2 others all said that they did not want to see military action against Tehran. They were very concerned this would lead to a wider war. It would lead to missiles being launched at them. So there's a lot of concern about that. And there is this long-standing 1,000+ year tension between Sunni regimes and Shia regimes. And in Iran, you have the most sophisticated country in the Middle East, a large culture with deep history that the U.S. ought to be able to turn back into an ally. But instead, the U.S. government, under both Republicans and Democrats for the last 72 years or 73 years, has done a brilliant job of ending a millennium of enmity between the Russians and the Persians and driving them toward each other and separating any American interests from Iran.
Thank you, David. Again, please don't go anywhere, as we'll join back with you shortly. We've got